The cheapest energy in human history is being produced right now, and you can't afford it. That's not a metaphor. It's a physical reality. The price of a barrel of oil, a megawatt hour of electricity, or a therm of natural gas has never been lower when adjusted for what it can do. The machinery of extraction and conversion has become so brutally efficient that the cost to pull a joule of work from the ground is approaching zero. Yet the price you pay at the pump, on your utility bill, at the grocery store, feels disconnected from that fact. This is the central paradox of our age. Energy has never been cheaper to make and never more expensive to use. This is the Energy Historian, uncovering the hidden systems that power civilization. To understand this, you have to look past the commodity price. You have to look at the system built around it. The story doesn't begin in a control room or at a wellhead. It begins in a place where energy isn't measured in dollars, but in time. In the late 19th century, a single barrel of crude oil contained roughly the energy equivalent of 25,000 hours of human manual labor. To harness that, you needed a refinery. The first refineries were simple stills, wasting more than they captured. The cost wasn't in the crude, it was in the colossal inefficiency of turning it into something useful. The entire industrial project for 150 years has been a war on that inefficiency. We won. A modern refinery converts over 90% of every barrel into sellable product. A combined cycle gas turbine can turn heat into electricity at 60% efficiency, a figure that would have seemed like magic 2 generations ago. The machines are almost perfect. But perfection created a new problem. When your machine is this efficient, you have to run it flat out, all the time, to pay for itself. A billion-dollar refinery that sits idle is a financial corpse. A liquefied natural gas terminal that operates at half capacity bleeds money by the second. The economics of cheap energy demand constant, unrelenting flow. The system now operates on razor-thin margins and astronomical fixed costs. The energy is cheap, but the system to deliver it is unimaginably expensive, and that system has a non-negotiable appetite for capital. It must be fed, continuously, or it seizes. So we built a financial architecture to match the physical one. Pipelines aren't just steel tubes, they are annuity contracts, decades-long promises to move a certain volume every day. Power purchase agreements lock in prices for 20 years to justify building a wind farm or a gas plant. The entire edifice rests on predictability. The cost of energy isn't the fuel, it's the interest on the loan, the return for the investor, the depreciation on the machine. The fuel is almost incidental. We've monetized the delivery system itself. This is why the price you pay feels disconnected from the raw cost of production. You're not paying for the energy, you're paying for the certainty of its arrival. Now here's where the fragility seeps in. That financial architecture assumes a stable world. It assumes demand curves that always slope upward, geopolitical landscapes that don't convulse, and climate patterns that stay within 20th century bounds. None of those assumptions hold anymore. But the system, because of its immense fixed costs, cannot adapt quickly. It's too big to pivot. So when a shock hits a war, a drought, a freeze, the system doesn't absorb the blow, it amplifies it. The shock travels instantly through the financial layer, hitting long-term contracts and derivatives, long before it affects the physical flow of molecules. The price spikes aren't about scarcity of energy, they're about the system's panic over its own financial survival. Look at Europe. 2022. Russian gas didn't suddenly become expensive to extract. The wells were the same, the pipelines were the same, but the financial certainty that underpinned their flow evaporated. The system's cost, the insurance, the emergency LNG shipments, the frantic bidding for alternatives exploded. The energy was still physically cheap to produce, but the cost of rebuilding the certainty around its delivery was astronomical. Consumers paid for the reconstruction of an entire supply chain in real time. The market wasn't pricing gas, it was pricing systemic fear. This pattern isn't new. It's the inevitable end state of any system that optimizes purely for efficiency over resilience. We saw it in the 1970s oil shocks. The problem wasn't that oil got harder to find overnight. It was that the Western world had built a just-in-time delivery system, supertankers, dedicated pipelines, refineries configured for specific crude blends that had zero slack. When geopolitics pulled one card out, the whole house of cards trembled. The price spike was the cost of inventing a new system on the fly. We are living through a slower, more distributed version of the same crisis. Every climate event, every trade dispute, every sanction is a tiny pull on a card. The system's financial layer convulses in response, and you pay for its convulsions. The transition to renewables repeats the pattern, but at a higher amplitude. A solar panel has no fuel cost. The energy from it is, in a literal sense, free. But the system to collect, balance, and deliver that energy is mind-bogglingly complex and capital-intensive. A grid powered by renewables isn't a grid of power plants. It's a grid of weather predictions, continent-scale transmission lines, billion-dollar battery banks, and financial instruments to balance supply and demand across thousands of miles. The energy is cheaper than free when the sun shines, but the cost of ensuring it's there when you flip the switch at night has created a new financial universe. You're not paying for photons, you're paying for the absolute assurance of electrons. This is the counterintuitive heart of the paradox. The cheaper energy gets at the point of production, the more expensive the system to manage its uncertainty becomes. We are trading fuel costs for financialization costs. The volatility we've outsourced to the market is now coming back as a permanent premium on stability. The market's answer to uncertainty is to price it, and that price is now the dominant component of your bill. The entire modern economy is built on the promise of cheap, stable energy inputs. That promise is breaking down, not because energy is scarce, but because the system we built to deliver it is too fragile to survive in the world it created. The real cost isn't on your utility bill. It's in the creeping instability of everything built on top of that energy flow, the cost of food, the viability of manufacturing, the geography of where people can afford to live. We perfected the machine, but we built it for a planet that no longer exists. If this gave you a new perspective, hit subscribe. The hidden infrastructure is always there. Now you know where to look.